Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mental Health Forum. My name is Sanazia. I'm your host for tonight, representing Savera Society for Women Empowerment and Recognition in Australia. And let's welcome my co-host Kim Cullen, Executive Director of CCHR, Citizens Human Rights Commission, Australia, Victoria.
Thanks, Sana. I'm going to say what it is. Citizens Commission on Human Rights
Human Rights Victoria. So sorry, Kim. Like today is our 22nd episode and still I have to remember. Bad memory.
No, that's totally fine. So this is our 22nd episode. That's really fantastic. So, with the purpose of the show that we've been doing for the last 22 weeks is to educate people on various issues to do with human rights so that they can make informed choices, because that's what it's all about, being able to make an informed choice regarding your health and well-being and your family's health and well-being. So if you've got any questions, you can always email me, or if you want any information, or if there's something you don't understand, we always put our details in the chat box so that you can see that. So before we start our topic, Sana, I wanted to introduce you to a new team member for CCHR Victoria, Lee Riley. And Lee's a pretty amazing guy, and he worked with me for about 8 to 10 years when I was the Executive Director of the Citizens Commission on Human Rights in New South Wales from 2000 to 2010. So that was pretty amazing time because, anyway, Lee and I worked together. He was my production director at that time. So he's got a host of past experience, and I wanted to introduce him to you and all of the A1 viewers.
So let's welcome Lee.
Hello, Kim. Hi, Sana. How are you?
Hi, Lee. Welcome to Victoria and welcome to CCHR.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Much appreciated.
He couldn't resist me, Sana. He had to come and join us.
That's right.
CCHR too much.
That's right. Yeah, Kim's. I've definitely got a big fan in Kim. She loves me. We get along very, very well. We do good work.
Yeah, we're good mates. We have a lot of fun together too, which is good.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's good. And before we discuss our today's topic, which is again very, very interesting and very important to discuss, Lee, first of all, if you can introduce our viewers, just tell us a little bit brief introduction.
Sure. Okay. So my name's Lee Riley. I'm living in Sydney, New South Wales. I have a wife and a son who's 9 years old. My wife is Thai, actually. My wife's actually from Thailand. My son's 9. I became involved with CCHR many years ago now, probably the early 90s when I think about it, as a direct result of previously being a nurse. I was a nurse a long time ago. First thing I did when I left school. And I was privy to experience the results, the damaging results of psychiatry as an agency nurse, and from witnessing certain things, I became interested to find other groups of people who had similar interests to me in exposing what I knew and what I saw, as a person that first and foremost cares for people and has compassion for people when they're feeling unwell, whether it be physical or what we call mental. So that's sort of how I became involved with Citizens Commission on Human Rights, and consequently Kim as well. And Kim and I made a great friendship, and I guess we found in each other kindred spirits, and kindred spirits always work very well together. So that's essentially, that's me, I guess, in a nutshell.
Thanks, Lee.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thanks a lot for your brief introduction. And I must say, Kim, that you always found people who really go through this, the experience of people who got psychiatric issues and all that. So it's not like CCHR is just saying something. I think they got the the people who actually go through these kind of problems or who face these kind of issues, and then of course, you are trying to raise awareness. So
Yes,
you must be
absolutely.
yeah. So that is
Absolutely.
what
Yeah.
yeah. And hats
Because
off to you and your whole team that from last so many years you are doing a lot of work for the whole community. In particular, of course, I know you in Victoria, you guys are doing great work.
thanks, Sana. Yeah, absolutely. People become passionate about um, exposing psychiatric damage and getting the system changed when they've either been in the system themselves or they've been someone like Lee who's actually worked in the system as a nurse or a provider. And, or, like myself as a teacher, and I saw the damaging effects that labels and the
Yeah.
drugs that are being given to our kids, or people whose grandparents have been affected, or their aunties or uncles, but it's usually those sorts of people that get drawn to us because they want to know, well, why is this happening? What's the
Yes.
reason for it? And that's why we keep on pushing this informed consent, because we want to give people the ability to make that choice. It's very, very important.
Yeah. And that is what even today we select a topic that is again very important to discuss, because after we are in not in stage 4 anymore, and there is some ease, they ease down some restrictions and all that finally. So yeah. So our today's topic is I think really important to discuss, because now this is a big concern, and our topic is resilience and handling life after COVID. So before we talk about this issue, I just want to say a little bit about it, and that is on May 25th, 2020, the Australian newspaper reported that rather than a mental health epidemic as a result of COVID, history suggests we often rebound from mass trauma events. This is a very interesting topic, as we are being told continuously in the media, or by, of course, through politicians and by the community members, that this pandemic we are going through and coming out of is going to have long lasting mental health impacts. And we are to expect a tsunami of mental illness. And that is the reason we think that today it's really important to discuss what is resilience and the life after COVID-19. So, Lee, my question to you is, what actually means resilience? What that does this mean?
Okay, so that's a very good question. I mean, it means a lot of things to a lot of different people, but there's an excellent article, and it's written by Jan Eastgate, and Jan, she's the president of the Citizens Commission on Human Rights International, and people can actually go to the website cchr.org. Clearly, that's the international site. We also have the websites available in Australia as well. Same information. But she wrote this article, and it starts, and I'll read it verbatim. Some media are starting to report how resilience, not mind-altering psychotropic drugs, is better at facing COVID-19 restrictions. Some people will already have an idea about this themselves from their own experiences. So in the late 1930s, as Britain braced itself for a looming war and predicted mass civilian casualties from German bombing, a committee of psychiatrists predicted that the bombs would cause 3 times more mental injuries than physical. Several large psychiatric hospitals were built outside London to deal with the mass trauma, or predicted mass trauma. So despite 57, that's 2 months, 57 sequential nights of bombings, and anyone familiar with the raids on London and even as high up as Manchester. I'm actually from Manchester, so my family actually went through this. So despite 57 sequential nights of bombings, 41,000 Londoners killed, and 2 million homes destroyed, every one of the predictions about how Londoners would react turned out to be wrong. So those psychiatric hospitals that were built in readiness for the surge of people with mental trauma, every hospital remained empty and were repurposed for the physically wounded, which clearly makes a lot more sense. So that's a good idea of resilience in a very practical manner in wartime England.
Yeah, there was another similar one when there was the 9/11 attacks in New York,
Yes.
because it was predicted that 1 in 4 New Yorkers would suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of those bombings. And I can remember I was teaching in New South Wales at the time, and I actually saw this happening on television with a group of kids, and we just couldn't believe it, that was happening. And there was 9,000 counsellors actually dispatched across the US to deliver help to people at that time, and they established tents all around, the cities and that sort of thing. But even then, even with the New Yorkers and the Americans, they were so resilient. Only half of the money that had been put aside for this so-called potential future disaster came about. So it just shows you, that. Well, we know that the Londoners, the Tommies, as we call them here, the English people, they're very resilient. We know that the Americans are resilient, and I'm sure we're pretty much the same over here, Sana.
Yeah. So, if we look from this perspective, so Lee, what do you think? What exactly this resilience stands for? And then, do you think that every one of you, or maybe we got some sort of resilient in ourselves, or is it can you explain a bit about it?
Sure. I mean, I guess an extreme example is one of those things that people have heard about. It may have been an urban myth, but the idea of a strength, and you're talking about women here too. And let's go on to that subject. There's these ideas of where there's been a car accident and a lone woman has lifted a car by herself off a child or someone that's been with them in the car. There's actually true stories of that happening. So that's a moment of extreme necessity. That could be definitely considered a form of resilience. I mean, the opposite of that would be giving up and walking away, surely. Now, resilience takes many, many forms. You could speak to a myriad different people on the bus, on the street, in a work colleague, a passing, a member of parliament, a mother, a father, literally anyone. And you could ask them the question in their life, when have they overcome something? Because if you said to someone, tell me a time when you were resilient, that might be a bit like, oh, okay, resilient. But if you ask them when they overcame something that they thought they couldn't overcome, you will definitely get lots of different stories. Now, a little one for me at the moment is my son plays ice hockey. And ice hockey is largely unknown in Australia. He's 9 years old. He's playing up one division at the moment. And 2 weeks ago, they played against some players that were 14 years old. Remember, he's 9, and he played against players who are 6'4". So he's about 140 centimeters. Not sure how much that is. So 1.4 meters against someone who's 6'4", probably 183 centimeters or something like that. So he's a good full head and a half height shorter. And I looked at him on the ice and I thought, goodness gracious, this is not going to work out well. And he did fine. He took the position, he held his space, and he would tackle the individual involved. So he was very, very happy to play the game. And I asked him afterwards, I said, how did you go with that? And he said, that's fine. That's part of the game. And that it's a great answer from a 9-year-old saying it's part of the game. Bouncing back, toughness, they're all words. 1974. And I won't go on, but people will remember these things, especially if they're in Australia. Cyclone Tracy, Darwin. Darwin was literally obliterated. The city itself was completely flattened. And, well, it didn't disappear, did it? They've come back. Banda Aceh, the tsunami 2011, I think they were. The people bounced back. The people rebuilt. People will not be held down, ever. Actually, you know what? If you want to test of someone, try and hold people down. Just try and do it and see what you get. So that's resilience.
Oh, that's great.
Very well defined. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, and you already quoted, Darwin's example here. So, what about here in Australia? Is there any research showing the resilience of Australians in the face of adversity?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I've got a good example. Richard Bryant, so he's a professor of psychology at the University of New South Wales, who studied the impact of Australia's devastating Saturday bushfires in 2009. I don't know if those ones were called, Black Saturday bushfires. So in 2009, said 82% of people remained resilient. 82% of people is a lot of people. So approximately 400 fires were recorded across Victoria. 173 people tragically lost their lives. Many will remember this event from a series of fires in 2009, and 414 people were injured. But as one study, and there is a silver lining in this, but as one study Bryant was involved in found, several years following the Black Saturday bushfires, the majority of affected people demonstrated resilience without indications of psychological distress. Only a minority required services for persistent problems. So people basically got on with it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And one of the things that we need to look at as well is because things, we've got this whole situation that's been happening in Australia with the COVID and the lockdown. And it's interesting because, like New South Wales, people are walking around like normal. They're doing normal things. There might be more masks on, and there's certain very minor restrictions. I know because my daughter lives up there and she's been going away for holidays with her. They go away for weekends, they go out for dinner, and we're down here in Victoria. We have actually been locked up and locked down pretty much for 6 months. We've had a huge amount of loss of our businesses. I don't want to go on too much about that. That's a political thing. But however, there are a lot of people who have been saying, I'm feeling depressed. I don't know what to do about it. And we've had a lot of people on this show, talking to us about this and what do we do? So one of the things that has happened, which has been, really, really sad and really disappointing, I feel, is that there has been an increase in people on antidepressants and psychiatric drugs. And really, it seems like the doctors don't really quite know what to do about it, So, Sana, it's like in our shows, we've had a lot of mental health experts over the last, 22 weeks. We've had mental health experts. We've had Dr. Ian Brighthope. He was he founded the Australian Council of Nutritional and Environmental Medicine and trained doctors in nutritional medicine for the last 40 years. We had Dr. Katsikas, who is a hormonal doctor. We had Mark Donoghue, who's an expert researcher and in nutrition and vitamins and food and stuff. And one-on-one, every time, every single person that we spoke to, Sana, they've told us exercise, nutrition, proper food, do things, keep yourself productive, balanced diet. And if you are feeling that like what's considered to be clinically depressed, which is, a different situation again, then for heaven's sake, go find, a really good doctor who's going to give you a test to find out what the underlying condition is, because up to 80% of mental conditions, there's an underlying medical condition that's not been diagnosed. So, with this situation, it's been really incredible. And the other thing I just wanted to mention as well, I don't know if anyone's noticed this, but there's we probably should see if we can get some of these guys onto our show, Sana, but Peter Credlin from Sky News, she's been pretty much reporting what's going on in Victoria in a really hard-hitting way, I feel. And the situation in Victoria that has created a lot of, I feel, of this mental illness and the anguish and the anxiety from people is because we've had things botched and done incorrectly by our government that could have been done differently and better. And there've been some cover-ups and stuff. But, I mean, that's not our issue. But it is to the point that it's affected a lot of people. And I saw a documentary that she did today on this very issue, and there was a family there who hadn't been able to see their mother before she passed away. And they were absolutely devastated, and the anxiety and the worry. And I looked at that and I thought, that's one family out of thousands.
So many, yeah.
And it's sort of like, it was just indicative of how important it is for us to support the right people in government and get them informed on what's going on. Because if they don't know what's happening,
Yeah.
they don't know that there are all these, alternatives, then they're just going to go with who are the experts that's giving them the advice, right? And I think Jan says in that article that Lee was referring to, that we've based this program on, is that we're listening to these experts and they're not necessarily the experts. So we need to step back, Yeah.
And one more thing which I want to add on is, Kim, on our show, we also invited those people who are victims of this psychiatric drugs.
Yeah.
And I think I must agree with you that when we said that, okay, go to and take advice from the right doctor, means it's not like taking advice from doctor is bad. It is, we try to suggest you that just keep an eye that, doctors are diagnosing you properly. Because you remember the victim which we invited on our show, she said that in 10 or 15 minutes, the doctor, without doing any test or anything, diagnosis that she is going through a psychiatric issue, which is really a big problem for her, because it took 10 to 12 years for her to overcome this issue and all that. So that is we keep on trying to say, and that is why we said that there are so many alternatives. If you feeling low, if you feel depressed, it's okay. That is why we said that there are so many things going on even in the past, as well as Lee very well explained, what happened in 1930s in London, then even in 9/11, and now even in COVID-19, and in particular in Victoria, because in Victoria we have to go through lockdown stage 4, so which is really worst for and it prolonged for a certain period. So that's why. But anyhow, we keep on saying that, look, there are different alternatives. Try to adopt, look at yourself, try to eat healthy, think positive, and then take advice from those people who are really expert on it.
Absolutely. And there's probably another issue we should go over at some point on this and do a little bit of exploring on it and investigating, is that, like I looked at it and I asked the question, why are so many doctors prescribing antidepressants? And the statistics, the actual governmental statistics show that 78% of the doctors prescribe the psychiatric drugs, the antidepressants and the psychiatric drugs in Australia. Now, I can tell you, 15, 20 years ago, if you went to the doctor and you said, I'm feeling a bit depressed, the doctor would say, what's happening with your life? Are you having any problems?
Yes.
Have you lost your job? And then he'd check you, and he'd check your heart and he'd check your blood pressure, and he'd do different tests, and then he would do this whole exploratory thing to find out what's going on with you, and you'd be able to sit with him and have a chat, and, he'd be your family doctor, and you'd care for him and trust him, and you might get another opinion, or he could get another, or send you off for another opinion. But there's no way that you, after 15 minutes, would be told, oh, you're depressed, here you are, here's the script for antidepressants, and put you on a drug that could potentially create lifetime damage to you, and also a very high suicide risk. So there is a story behind that, Sana, and we should go into that, because those doctors were trained on a program called Sphere. And I'd actually like to indicate to your listeners that if they've been put on to psychiatric drugs by their doctor, if they would just like to send me a quick email on that, and we can contact them, because we want to do a documentary on people who have been their effects of antidepressants, Australian people, so that we can actually start exposing this a little bit more and just really look at, like I said today, like this documentary I saw today, it was one family burying their mother, and it was just devastating. I was just sitting there crying, because it's like, you know what it's like. So I really feel for all the people out there, and I'd like to offer my condolences to all the people out there who have lost someone, who have been gone through a tough time. But we're coming out of it, guys. It's, the sun shines out. We can go shopping. Sana and I are going to meet for coffee next week, aren't we, Sana?
Yeah. Even the day, I think, when we are out of this lockdown, you can see the roads and even the shopping centers. Oh my God, it's full of people. So this shows, like, that they have been stuck in home for last so many months. And of course, you need something to feel normal. So I think now, thanks God, we are back to normal life. And that
Yeah.
is what we require.
So
And
Victoria,
in last 22 weeks, me and Kim, we are trying really hard to give the positive perspective of life, to keep your energy level high, that look, you are not alone. There are so many other factors as well, that if you are feeling depressed, if you are feeling something which is not, you think that it's something different, then it's
yeah,
okay. Everyone feels like that, because of course the situation is out of your control. The situation is something which is quite unpredictable, so we can't say anything. So any last words from you, Lee? It's been long that you are listening to, ladies.
Oh, that's okay.
really fun.
Hard to take your
That's okay.
turn.
I mean, yeah. Whoever said women with a weaker sex? No, definitely not. So to reiterate, when Kim then was saying, she'd like to give her condolences to people who are suffering. I mean, that's not just a trite message. I mean, that's a real honest message. I mean, I was shopping today. There was a guy standing behind me. I started talking to him. Kim knows me. I talk to everyone. And this guy had been out of work for 5 months, and my heart went out to him because, he's got a family, he's got a wife, the bills don't stop, and people have a hard time. And, I've been speaking this week on other programs talking about not just resilience, but leaning on family. And I'd stress with people to lean on a family member, lean on friends. I mean, that's what friends are for. Someone said to me, friends are like an apple. Sometimes you have to put the bite on them. So, that's what we're for. And it's very Australian. Australians love to help. One thing I love about this country is that, wow, whenever, it doesn't matter how many we get. You look at this year, we've had the fires, we had floods, we had COVID, we've literally had one thing after the other. And for a lot of people, that would just destroy. But no, it hasn't. People go, we don't care. This is life, and we're going to get on with it. But I would say that on the back of this, unfortunately, you have the doomsday mental health experts in Australia predicting massive mental health problems. So with results from the COVID pandemic, and I would simply say, and it seems very hard to do for people sometimes, but it's very necessary. So you'd step back and then look at these people that call themselves experts. You really need to look at the definition of expert in a dictionary and ask, what else are they selling the public? What other agendas do they have? And I'd say to people, be educated, take responsibility, get the facts, and then you decide. And if you go to see a doctor, there are many, many good doctors out there. Doctors can prescribe psychiatric drugs, and they do in volume, but it doesn't discount the fact that there are very, very good doctors out there. And I've met a lot of them, and they do care about people, and they're never the ones to first put people on psychiatric drugs. So I'd say go armed with information to a doctor if you have a situation that you're not sure about. And if the doctor then goes to prescribe, just say, well, I'm not sure about that. This is what I know about it. And don't be scared. Don't be steamrolled over it. After all, it's your life, and you have your own responsibilities to yourself, husbands and wives and children and families and extended families, and wholly the civilization in which you live. And we all need to be aware of our own role in this. So that sounds a bit big at the moment, but that's what I say. That's my view too.
No, that's great.
Yeah, that's great. That's really
That
great.
is good. Mm.
Yeah. So, any last words from your side, Kim?
Of course, I've always got some last words, Sunny. You know, I just like to thank A1 TV, and it's really fantastic that you've got satellite now, and so you're being
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
broadcast further and further, and you guys do an absolutely phenomenal job. And I just really like to point out to your listeners, wherever you are, you know, whether you're in Victoria or Australia or India or Canada or wherever this goes to, if
Or even
you,
Pakistani as well.
of
Yeah.
course, sorry, of course, Pakistan. Um, if you or any of your loved ones have been abused by a psychiatrist or have an adverse drug reaction, then contact your local Citizens Commission on Human Rights chapter, or the international chapter, or us down here in Victoria, and we would love to help you, because we actually help. The way we get people educated is to bring the stories to people as well. So we'll give you those details. We'll put them down in the chat box in the show, and we can go from there. So thanks, Sana. Thanks, Lee. Lovely to have you on the show as well. And we'll
Yeah.
see
No,
you.
thank you. Thanks for
Yeah.
inviting
Thanks
me,
a
and
lot,
thank you,
Lee.
Sana.
Thank you.
You're more
Yeah.
than welcome. Very much
Okay.
enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. And as Kim said, that if you're going through any problem or any psychiatric issues or anything like that which you think it should be highlighted or even discussed, CCHR is there to help and support. And our lovely Kim is always there to help and support. So look at the beautiful smile. She's always there with this beautiful smile. No matter whatever your issue is, no matter whatever your background, CCHR with Kim is always there to help and support. And I know that. I personally recommend CCHR. So once again, thank you, Kim, for being part of our show. It's all because of you that, like, now we are doing this show for last 22 weeks. And of course, thank you to Lee as well for such a very important discussion. So thanks to both of
You're
you. And
welcome.
in the end, we always said that just look after yourself wherever you are. Just stay safe, look after your family, and always keep supporting A1 TV. Thank you.